Singapore, one of the richest, cleanest, and most powerful financial hubs in the world. But behind the glossy skyline lies a dynasty, a family so powerful they've shaped every dollar, decision, and direction this nation takes. They're not on the Forbes list. They don't flash private jets. But their control stretches across trillions in state assets, corporations, and policy. This is the story of the Lee family, the trillionaire power behind Singapore Inc. How did they rise? How much influence do they really hold? And do they truly own Singapore? Let's find out. Singapore is one of the wealthiest nations in the world, a gleaming city-state known for its immaculate streets, futuristic skyline, and staggering economic power. But behind its clean image and explosive growth lies a question few dare to ask. Who really owns Singapore? No, this isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a story of power, policy, and dynastic control. At the center of it all is a single family, the Lee family, whose influence over Singapore's wealth, politics, and future runs deeper than most realize. Some say they're not just billionaires, but trillionaires in influence. Let's take a closer look at how one family came to shape, and arguably own, an entire country. The rise of the Lee dynasty. To understand modern Singapore, you must first understand Lee Kuan Yew, the founding father and first Prime Minister of Singapore. After gaining independence from Malaysia in 1965, Singapore was a struggling island with no natural resources, no military, and deep ethnic tensions. But Lee Kuan Yew had a vision to turn Singapore into a global powerhouse by prioritizing education, clean governance, and economic strategy. But Lee wasn't just a visionary, he was also a strategist. He consolidated power, implemented sweeping reforms, and built a technocratic government that operated more like a corporation than a typical democracy. Under his leadership, Singapore went from third world to first world in a single generation. But here's where it gets interesting. Singapore Inc., a nation run like a corporation. Most governments regulate corporations. In Singapore, the government is the corporation. More than 60% of the country's GDP is linked to government-linked companies, known as GLCs. These are businesses owned or controlled by the state, and they operate in almost every sector, from telecommunications and real estate to banking, aviation, and energy. At the top of the pyramid sits Temasek Holdings, Singapore's state-owned investment company, managing over $400 billion in assets. And who chairs Temasek? Ho Ching, Lee Kuan Yew's daughter-in-law and wife of current Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. This isn't just a coincidence. It's a pattern. Temasek Holdings, the crown jewel. Temasek isn't your typical sovereign wealth fund. It acts like a private equity firm, with strategic control over some of the largest companies in Asia. It owns major stakes in Singapore Airlines, Singtel DBS Bank CapitaLand, and dozens of others. Temasek even has global holdings in companies like Alibaba, PayPal, and major energy and biotech firms. So while the average Singaporean sees a gleaming skyline and efficient trains, what they're really witnessing is the machinery of Temasek, and by extension, the Lee family's empire, at work. Temasek's annual returns rival the world's best hedge funds. But unlike Wall Street, its leadership is tied directly to the most powerful political family in Singapore. The Lee family today. Political power meets financial control. After Lee Kuan Yew stepped down in 1990, his son Lee Hsien Loong eventually took over as Prime Minister in 2004. A former military brigadier general and mathematician by training, Lee Hsien Loong continued his father's legacy, with a firm grip on both political and economic power. Together with his wife, Ho Ching, they oversee key aspects of Singapore's political, financial, and strategic apparatus. And here's where things start to resemble a dynastic financial empire. The People's Action Party, PAP, the party founded by Lee Kuan Yew, has ruled uninterrupted since 1959. Every major economic policy, infrastructure project, or corporate deal in Singapore has been influenced by PAP leadership. And who dominates the PAP? The Lee family and their close political allies. Critics argue this creates a dangerous concentration of power. Supporters say it ensures stability and excellence. Either way, one thing is clear. There is no modern Singapore without the Lee family. A trillionaire family? Not in dollars, but in control. You won't find the Lee family on Forbes' richest list. Their personal wealth remains officially modest, and Singapore is known for its strict anti-corruption laws. But money isn't always measured in cash. It's measured in control. The Lee family doesn't just own a business or two. Through Temasek, GIC, another sovereign wealth fund, and the PAP's decades-long dominance, they effectively manage and influence trillions of dollars in state assets, infrastructure, and investments. They don't own Singapore in the traditional sense, but through policy, political control, corporate structure, and cultural influence, they control more of it than most monarchs or tycoons ever could. Controversies and power struggle, even among royalty, power breeds tension. In recent years, the Lee family has faced public disputes. In 2017, Lee Hsien-loong's siblings accused him of abusing power to preserve the family's legacy, particularly regarding the fate of their father's home at 38 Oxley Road, a site rich in symbolic value. This rare public fallout offered a glimpse into the internal power dynamics of a family that usually remains behind the curtain. But the political machine rolled on, unchanged. The global game, Singapore as a financial fortress. Today, Singapore is a magnet for global billionaires, tech giants, crypto firms, and multinational corporations. Why? Because Singapore offers no capital gains tax, strategic geographic location, world-class infrastructure, political stability. But who created this magnet? The policies were designed by Kuan Yew. The corporate strategy was executed by Temasek. The long-term vision was protected by PAP rule. In other words, the Lee family's fingerprints are on every pillar of Singapore's global success. The family behind the curtain. Singapore is often seen as a model of modern efficiency, a place where systems work, corruption is low, and opportunity is abundant. But behind the clean facade is a family dynasty with influence that rivals monarchs, moguls, and even some nations. The Lee family may not be trillionaires in net worth, but their control over the levers of government, business, and wealth creation makes them trillionaires in power. It's a reminder that in some corners of the world, true wealth isn't just about money. It's about control, legacy, and narrative. And few families have written their nation's story as completely or as successfully as the Lees have in Singapore. The Lee family's story isn't just about money. It's about control, legacy, and nation building. Love them or question them, there's no denying they shaped modern Singapore. If this video gave you a new perspective, hit that like button and subscribe. We dive deep into the wealth and power behind the world's most elite. Drop a comment below. Do you think this kind of influence is dangerous or necessary for progress? Thanks for watching. This is Wild Lux, where luxury meets legacy. Expect another fantastic topic we will discuss about in the next video. It nothing but mind-blowing. You will love it. See you again.